Still looking to earn your invite for the free Players Championship? Visit ppgeventmanagement.com to learn about the different qualifiers available. From one-day events to play-on-your-own-schedule events, all events offer a buyback or cash option along with a 100% credit option redeemable towards any future pre-order at competitive prices. Grinding and getting paid to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Has never been easier. Play with the most professional worldwide tournament series today and join the online community. Come join us on Discord for assistance, info, and even discussions about future events.
Yeah, Unchained is a deck that, I like so many of the things that we're seeing played in today's tournament. It's just very slightly under the power level necessary to compete with the metagame, and Safwan is one of the very few people who has been able to make it tick. He is doing so fantastically this tournament. Is playing against random Brazilian who is on Invoked.
Yeah, not quite sure exactly what variant of Invoked yet, as we've only seen some very generic cards here. Now, Unchained, I've had this deck described to me, and I have described it myself as a deck that's just a little bit too fair. Like, all of the effects and everything really only interact in such a specific way, and there's so many lockouts and so on and so forth that really, if there were just like that one card that didn't have such a silly restriction, it could really pop off.
Yeah, for sure. Certainly, I feel as if something that can make up the difference in fairness. You're seeing here, removing Invoked Macabre from the field has essentially ended the Invoked player's entire strategy, and is being met with an Unchained Twin Rika effect, which will trigger the effect of Escape in the Graveyard and find an Unchained from deck. Obviously, the best of these is the newly printed Unchained Twins Sarama. This card can target an Unchained card in the graveyard, set it to the field, and destroy a card you control. Now, we've already activated the effect of Escape this turn, but we haven't activated the destruction effect of Rika, so likely we'll see Sarama destroy this copy of Escape, and then trigger the effect of Rika, which can turn into an Abomination if they want to go for damage, or a Dog if they want to not draw Dog later in the game.
Yeah, Unchained it's such a cool deck, honestly. Just very interesting interactions and kind of a unique win condition with the ability to link away with your opponent's monsters is obviously quite powerful. And then also it does have quite a bit of consistency, in particular thanks to Sarama, has really bumped the deck up into sort of that fringe viability, that term we've been throwing around a lot today.
Right.
And above all, it can just sometimes be such a difficult deck to handle, that destroy text, where if you destroy these cards by pretty much any means, there are certain matchups where that text alone is just an auto win. Zodiac, for instance, really struggles against this deck.
All right, we are going for Abominable Unchained Soul, and from here we're going to go to battle phase, dealing at 1,500 to our opponent. From here we can, well, basically do whatever we want. If you want to go into the Link 2, you can, but passing on these two is almost just as powerful.
And right now we do see a significant amount of cards have left our player in blue's hand, our Invoked player. They do have access to Alistair, and they're going to go ahead and throw down set rotation off the top of the deck. Let's see what they're going to give. I wonder if there's anything particularly interesting that they have here for the field spells. And there is something a little interesting in a Trickstar Light Stage.
All right, that's a little interesting. The Trickstar Light Stage, of course, we talked about it in our previous Invoked feature, but it really smooths out a lot of the problems with the decks. It's an easy, repeatable light target. It can lock set cards like it's about to do, and then be material for this Macabre afterwards.
Yeah, I feel like this is really if they want to use the Trickstars to make the Predaplan Berte Anaconda, and then try to get out the Rainbow Neos, that is very, very good against a deck like Unchained, since that obviously completely bypasses all of the extra effects they get after being destroyed. And then, of course, Light Stage is going to freeze the set card, and they have the Freeze Summon with Gorobane. They have the Alistair already in hand. This is probably just about the situation that they're looking for, and as opposed to reading, as most Yu-Gi-Oh players are not super big fans of, they are going to ask their opponent if there are any quick effects or any interaction that they need to be aware of. And I think the appropriate response back from our player in red is maybe. see the Korobane here, followed up by the Alistair. This is also great since the Trickstars are, of course, light targets. So after you are able to go into the Predaplant Verite Anaconda, if that's the line of play they want to go for here, you can set up the Mecha button, then trigger the Verite, and then that can give you access to the Rainbow Neos, and give you at least one extra form of negate in case anything crazy happens here.
And I think we are seeing literally that exact play. Rainbow Neos is just such a house against Unchained specifically. These cards, of course, are at their best when they're being destroyed and at their worst when they're being shuffled back into the deck.
Rainbow Neos is just such a cool little tech. No, almost not even a tech anymore, but just such a cool card that we have in the meta as sort of almost a Dragoon replacement. But at the same time, what it can do, the raw power the card has, is absolutely incredible.
I'm not excited for Dragoon to finish this one off, to supplant this extremely cool and interesting boss monster from 2010 with just another remake that does everything under the sun.
Yeah, you know, when you look to the future of Yu-Gi-Oh! Over the next few months, and it's bleak, but, you know, what hasn't been so far this year?
That's fair.
We are going to see the Rainbow Neos. Rainbow Neos sending away the Verite Anaconda is going to clear out the board, and this is, in fact, lethal damage presented.
3,500. That's a lot of attack. And that's going to be it. Safwan's going to concede game 1, and we are in game 2, ladies and gentlemen.
And we aren't quite sure. I want to assume this is probably an Invoked Mech Knight deck, but so far all we know is Invoked Trickster.
Yeah, I would expect that there are... It's not pure Invoked. You know, that doesn't seem consistent or powerful enough to have made it.
And I know there has been... I've sort of gotten down into a few rabbit holes late at night in the many discords that are out there of pure mech or invoked decks rather playing somewhere around 20 plus hand traps. So they exist. Hopefully not at this tournament, but they do exist. I also wonder, what do you have in the side deck that beats Unchained specifically? Now, I will admit, as with many decks, as I tend to expose myself game after game, my knowledge of Unchained is a little bit low. I assume Ash Blossom is probably quite good, as most of these cards seem to have effects that summon from deck.
Ash Blossom's fine. The problem with Unchained is that so many... its cards are extremely numerous, you know, like a lot of archetypes that are kind of natively resilient to Ash Blossom. It's got a lot of stuff that does the same thing over and over again. So really what you want is cards that can end its entire turn. You want things like Rainbow Neos, evenly matched. And more importantly, you often want to prevent your opponent from really getting any value out of their individual Unchained cards. You know, in order to go into the link that links with your opponent's monsters, for example, you have to have monsters on your side of the field. So if you just play super defensively and refuse to commit to the board until your opponent does, you can blow them out easily with something like an evenly matched that interacts with them in a wholly negative way. Looks like we are in game 2, and wow, great news for Safwan. Losing the game means that he gets to go second against Invoked.
It's good news and bad news now that we see the Magical Meltdown come down. Mekka being a card that banishes when it actually negates.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating.
Yeah, you can't overstate how good that is, and I don't know what this card does, but they activated from hand. And apparently that was an accident.
We're going to fire off the Infinite Impermanence instead. But like all good Invoked players, I'm sure they've drawn the Invocation. What? That's 2 today!
No. Sorry, this is one of the bad Invoked players by your metrics.
Right, so Safwan has to walk with this. I mean, it will be extremely upsetting.
We do know that there is Escape of the Unchained in the hand, and they're going to go ahead and Rakia. Yeah, and then they're going to go ahead and pop the Escape, and I'm trying to read these as fast as I can, chat.
Right, so I'll just give a quick overview on Unchained for the benefit of both you and chat. All of the Unchained monsters, the Unchained twins, have 2 abilities. The first facilitates a pop combo, and the second, when it is destroyed, except by its own effect, it can float into another Unchained monster. Reika's effect is that as a quick effect, you can pop cards. on your side of the field. The red one, Arua's effect, is that you can special summon it from your hand by popping a card you control. And Sarama, the purple one's effect, is that you can set a card from your graveyard and then pop a card you control. The normal card you float into is Unchained Soul of Disaster, also known as Unchained Soul of dog shit. It is a miserably bad Garnet, but enables a link summon with an opponent's monster if it's on the field. It then can link into a Link 2, which on your opponent's turn can link once again with their monsters, and a Link 3, which on your turn can link once again with your opponent's monsters. The end result of all of this is Unchained Abomination, a Link 4 with about 15 different popping effects. This is the Link 2 right here, Unchained Soul of Rage. And usually the boards built by this deck don't progress much past this. A couple of monsters on field and threatening ability to link with your opponent's stuff.
And now I see here that the effect here from the Soul of Rage has to be with a special summoned monster.
That is true. There are stipulations. It's not, extremely powerful. But oh wow!
Not the first.
Yeah, that'll do it. And playing around the Mekk-Knight columns has won them the game. Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, the remaining card in hand. And looks like we are going to be going to Game 3.
And when our players will be declaring battle phase, unfortunately, they have been awarded a game loss there by their own decision to concede, and we're going to Game 3. But crazy that that's actually not the first time we've seen the Invoked Mech Knight. We've seen one earlier that also managed to open the Rainbow Dragon and the Elemental Hero Neo. So maybe Dueling Books just got a vendetta out against these Invoked Mech Knight players.
And I gotta tell you, it's a really powerful hand if you're playing rush duels. Maybe a mismanagement.
Absolutely. Do you think now, because in Game 1 we didn't see any of the Mech Knights directly, and these are, of course, two very high-level players, so I'm sure that this is irrelevant. But do you think revealing the information that there were, in fact, Mech Knights in the deck matters in any way, shape, or form?
Potentially. There's not too much you can pair Invoked with that isn't exactly named Eldritch, for example. So if you're playing Invoked and you don't see Eldritch cards, which comprise like 70 to 80% of the deck, you probably assume they're on Mekk-Knight. It's possible that they're not, but it seems unlikely.
Yeah, for sure. And fortunately, though, for our Invoked Mech Knight player, Invoked Mech Star, I suppose we should call it. They will get the ability to go second here, which is exactly what they're going to want. Is there any particularly impressive combo or turn one play outside of making the Unchained Soul of Rage that Unchained can do to try and potentially hurt a Mechaba or so on and so forth?
I honestly would consider just passing. Like, what's the realistic chance that you're going to get OTK'd by the Mekk-Knight deck? I think it's pretty close to 0. The Unchained cards absolutely love to go second. They hate to go first. And as a result, you will occasionally see players after picking first pass. Even setting cards in Mekk-Knight columns is kind of a liability, and you don't want to get into a scenario where your back row could be shuffled by something like a Rainbow Neos if you can ensure they'll be popped by your own cards. Looks like we are going to go for the Link play, and oh god, an Ash Blossom coming down against the Abomination's Prison. The most powerful card in the deck, bar none. I mean, it just searches anything.
I think at this point you do look to pass on nothing, unless you really want to try to force through something. If you do have one of the twins and one of the more powerful cards that can tutor a monster from a deck, which appears that they all can, if I'm not mistaken.
One of the most frustrating parts of this deck is that the different Unchained monsters can link with your opponent's stuff at different times. Right? So you can set the trap card that summons from deck. That's very powerful. But unfortunately, if you summon from deck into one that doesn't have the ability to pop off on your opponent's turn, what have you really accomplished outside of giving them a column and telegraphing that you want them to go to battle phase? There's not very much... There aren't a ton of mind games with this deck. Basically, everything you're doing is straight up on the table. So what you do in a lot of scenarios is just refuse to commit to the table.
And that's huge in this scenario, because Mekk-Knight is one of the rare decks where it really relies on your opponent almost setting up for you, being able to enable your Mech Knights and so on and so forth. Now, they are actually going to commit just a T set here. Well, not quite so bad, but yeah, set one, pass.
Sure. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
I would hesitate to one. I wonder what that set card would be. That would make that the play.
I was thinking Lightning Storm would be risky in case you hit one of the Unchained spell or trap cards, but
Oh,
instead
no.
it's an impermanence, which is perfect.
Oh, extremely lucky. Is an extremely risky play to be Lightning Storming against this deck. Going for the Blue Sky after the reward, and then going to normal summon a copy of A-Lister. Again, that just wouldn't be available at all if that card hadn't been set.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I think passing on nothing, I have to say it has to be the play here. At this point, you're completely at your opponent's mercy. The play would have went from doing nothing to just ending. If you would have had nothing, your play goes from all of what we're seeing into probably just summon Alistair. Well, I suppose they would have given themselves a column by being able to use the Almirage and then setting a card underneath that column to try and push through some damage. But it would have also turned off a lot of the engines, so Blue Sky can now search for Indigo and kind of continue from there. We'll see if Phantasme has anything to say about it, though. If it can draw some sort of hand trap or interaction that can make a little bit of a difference here.
Right, okay.
Most likely going to see our favorite. No, it's not Verte.
Alright, A-Lister, the Invoker of Madness, the get.
Now, do the Unchained also have effects when they're destroyed by battle?
They do. Every one of them that can be destroyed to get its effect also has the effect that it can be destroyed by battle for the same payoff.
Okay, so they will go for Mekka as opposed to potentially a Purgatrio to try and poke through damage here. And the Mekka, of course, being a quick effect, is able to activate in the damage step in the event that it does destroy something by battle. Quite useful. And they still have access to the Indigo Eclipse to help put another big body on board.
These columns are really screwing it up. Move it around and then go for another one. Jeez, these are huge.
There's one unknown card in hand and then one set there, and it is a perfect. Wow.
That is as good as it gets, wow. So we'll fire the purple here and banish this Indigo Eclipse in order to add, I don't know, maybe a red? Do we have anything in the graveyard? I don't think we do.
There is a
Hello is the pick. There's the hard-drawn Neos Fusion. If you've got an Ash, now is the time, but if you don't, this is the end of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is an interesting... The Neos Fusion tech, I feel, has been a really interesting inclusion because a lot of builds I've seen have started trending towards playing multiple copies of the Neos Fusion just because it is... When you read Rainbow Neos, you can kind of see why. This card is absolutely insane.
I mean, yeah, like, what's the worst-case scenario? Your link to is A-Lister, the Invoker of Madness, and you just activate Rainbow Neos by firing Fusion. We'll send this Invoker of Madness and set cards. And what did this set monster really accomplish except for getting sent back to the deck here?
Definitely would have been much different if there was just pass on an empty board. Now, if we kind of think about it, though, I suppose Alistair, go up into Secure Gardna, set the invocation, summon the blue or the purple, activate the Rainbow Neos, or the Neos Fusion. Still would have been an OTK through an empty board. Very impressive.
Yeah, wow. Safwan Rahman dropping their first... Hey everyone, if you're enjoying the coverage of the Pro Play Tour online series, just remember, you can play in one yourself. Every Thursday you can enter our free weekly 64-player tournament with invites to the entire Top Cut. Every Saturday is our weekend championship, where you can enter a YCS-type event with 100% payout and even a cash payout option. The more players, the bigger the prizes. Can't commit time to play in our one-day events? We also host multiple 8-man pods daily, ready to fire on demand on your own schedule. All these events award invites to our free invite-only Players Championship with prizes supplied by our sponsors. For more information, visit ppgeventmanagement.com and come play with the pros.